Question 4, Debbie Naruwapeka.
Tēnā koe te pika. My question is to the Prime Minister. Does he stand by all his government statements and actions?
Yes.
Supplementary. What is his message to 1 in 8 tamariki who will not be having a Merry Christmas this year, as their whānau can barely afford kai, let alone Christmas presents?
I acknowledge that's an incredibly tough situation. There are many New Zealanders that have had a very difficult year and continue to do so, and that is directly a function of economic mismanagement over the previous 6 years. When government spending goes up 84%, when inflation goes up to 7.3%, when interest rates go up 12 or 13 times, and you end up putting an economy into recession, people start losing their jobs. It's tough.
Supplementary. What is his message to the hundreds of tamariki who, according to Variety's Kiwi Kids sponsorship, have asked for kai instead of presents in their Christmas wish list this year?
Again, I refer the member to my former answer.
Supplementary.
We'll take 3, please. Point of order, the Honourable David Seymour.
Mr Speaker, I just seek your guidance. The members asked a primary about statements and actions of the Prime Minister, and then asked a series of questions about circumstances within New Zealand that may not relate to anything the Prime Minister has done or said, but impute that those circumstances are somehow his fault. And I think that's out of order and frankly unfair.
Yeah, look, all right.
The child poverty report from the budget said that this government was knowingly making decisions to put thousands of more kids in poverty. Well,
that's an interpretation you're putting on it. I'm merely saying that would rule that does he stand by all his statements and actions? Almost everything the government does can be attributed to something somewhere, good and bad, and therefore questions of this nature are not out of order.
Supplementary.
Sorry, what?
Is it not?
What is this? Sorry.
Is it not then incumbent on the questioner to identify the statement or action?
Certainly the questions relate to statements that have been made. We've just had that pointed out to us. But look, if the House wants to go down to a very pedantic way of dealing with questions, we'll do the same with answers, and that won't suit everybody either. Debbie Naruwapeka.
Thank you. How much did the Prime Minister profit from untaxed capital gains this year?
No, that question's out of order. That question's out of order. The
Supplementary.
Member can try another question if she wants, but that's not
Is it fair that everyday New Zealanders are paying over 20% in tax, while the richest 40% get away with only paying 10% through untaxed capital gains?
What's not fair is that 23,000 children were put into poverty in the last year under the Labor government, and thanks to our budget actions, 17,000 children are being moved out of poverty, and that is because we're offering tax relief, that's because we're getting inflation relief, that's because we're getting interest rate relief, and we're actually building confidence in this economy so that it can grow and keep people in jobs.
Supplementary question, the Honourable David Seymour.
Has this government ever made any statements, or will it make any statements to the effect of telling people that their problems are caused by other people's success, and dragging down other people for being successful is somehow the solution to their problems?
This is a government that believes we should celebrate people who have been successful, that are working incredibly hard to get ahead. If you care about low and middle income working New Zealanders, you are a fiscal conservative, unlike the last Labor-led government.
Right on, Winston.
Is the Prime Minister concerned about how much the Te Pāti Māori were advanced or enhanced by the abuse of the charities legislation of this country?
No, that's not something the Prime Minister can answer.
Yeah, I can.
We'll move to question...
Supplementary.
Supplementary.
Thank you. Did the Prime Minister declare any conflicts of interest when he became the Prime Minister of a government that is actively passing laws to line the pockets of landlords like himself while taking away renters' rights?
I'm sorry, that question's out of order. The member knows that there's a pecuniary interest document and that all members declare their interests in that.
How many houses could we build over 6 years with $200 billion, which is the amount of additional revenue we would gain from capital gains tax?
Yeah, look, I think the point made by the Honourable David Seymour earlier is a correct one. When you start getting that far away from statements and actions of the government. There are different ways of asking that question without losing the question. Have another go at it.
I'll go on to another one if that's okay for you, Mr. Speaker.
Well, it depends if it's in order
Thank
or not.
you. What urgent, tangible actions is the government taking to protect the livelihoods of the 230 workers facing the axe at Kinleith Mill before Christmas and prevent Tokoroa's economy from spiralling into intergenerational hardship?
Well, again, I want to acknowledge how difficult it is for the workers and the families impacted by the closure of the mill. I thank the Minister for Social Development, who's made sure that MSD is in there working with that community to look at opportunities for people in employment. But I also want to say that OG, the company that is behind the mill, is a large multinational corporation with billions of dollars of investment. They have said for some time that the paper mill is unprofitable, and it hasn't been helped by the Labor Greens energy policy, which ended up creating high electricity wholesale prices because the Green Party thought it was a great idea to import Indonesian coal rather than to use domestic gas. And that is a contributing factor to what has happened here. And so we are a government that is focused on rebuilding the economy, and that means actually good financial fiscal discipline so that we lower inflation, so that we lower interest rates, so that we grow the economy, so we get people into high-paying jobs.
The Honourable David Seymour.
Is the Prime Minister aware that one of, if not the greatest input to such a mill is electricity? And does the government have any policies that will make it easier to build generation capacity, which happen to be opposed by Te Pāti Māori?
Well, I would encourage Te Pāti Māori and the Greens and Labor, if they cared about the environment, if they cared about our energy policy, they would back us in ending the oil and gas ban. They would back the legislation around fast-track legislation that's building 30% more renewable electricity into this country. There's a lot that they should be supporting in this government because we're delivering on the economy, making sure that people are doing better and making sure the environment's going ahead.
Point of order, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, David Seymour has been raising a number of points of order today about questions from the opposition which he regards as being out of order. That question asked the Prime Minister to speculate on opposition parties' support or otherwise for a piece of legislation. The question, therefore, itself was out of order. All of the Prime Minister's answer was out of order as well, because he has no responsibility for that. I'm surprised that you neither ruled the answer nor the question out of order.
Well, the question was not out of order because I heard that in silence, therefore I did hear it. Not out of order because it was a follow-on from the matters that were brought up by the primary questioner in an earlier supplementary. I heard very little of the Prime Minister's response, largely due to the noise in the House.